Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode of Real World Basics. Today we are continuing our discussion on personal budgets, and today we're going to be talking about banking. So today's video will explore the different methods of exchanging money, such as debit, credit, checks, money orders, things like that. This is just designed to be a basic introduction to it. You can certainly go much further in depth into the subject of banking, but today will just be a quick crash course in the basics of it. So the basic type of banking accounts that you would encounter in the real world, your first is your checking account. This is probably the first one you would have. It is easily accessible via like a debit card. You can pull money out of it at an ATM. You can get cash back through it when you check out, like at the grocery store or something like that. But that's really meant for like your day-to-day purchases that you use frequently. The second is your savings account. This is, as the name says, something you would set aside, that you wouldn't have a card to access it daily. But what it does is earn money by sitting in the account through interest. So that's why it's savings. You're not meant to touch it on the day-to-day, and hopefully it does build up some additional income through interest. The third is your individual retirement account, or your IRA. This is tax-deductible money that you set aside specifically for retirement in the future. Many of these IRA plans are actually offered through places of employment later in adulthood. So that's definitely something that you want to check out. There's a lot of different types of IRA accounts. So if yours is offered to you through your place of employment, they can definitely give you a whole lot more information about it. Now, once you know the different types of bank accounts, then you get into the different types of cards or ways to spend money. So you've got credit and debit. So to put it into terms of the cards that you might use at some point, I just want you to remember that the terms debit and credit are a little more universal than just like your bank card. So when you think about credit, probably the first thing that pops into your mind is a credit card. Now, a credit card is usually issued to you through your bank or like a larger creditor company. You have to apply and you have to meet some certain criteria, but your line of credit is the amount that that bank or creditor company approves you to borrow for. So you're paying for something with money that you don't currently have. Different credit cards have different interest rates, which is how the bank or creditor company makes money off of lending you money. It gets really complicated sometimes, but if you don't pay back all of the money that you've borrowed at the end of each month, then they'll charge you interest based on your card's rate that you have to pay back in addition to any outstanding balance you owe at the end of the month. So with all of that in mind, it is helpful to have a credit card. It helps you get to your next paycheck. It can help you in emergency situations. You need a credit card to rent a car. And a lot of credit cards have like cool bonus points, or like you earn cash back when you use them. So it's like, you know, you make some money while you just using your card. But it can quickly get out of hand if you just like swipe your credit card without thinking about paying it back, or if you have like a cycle where you pay it off each month and then, you know, something happens and then you don't get to pay it all off one month and then you just fall out of sync. So it can just quickly overwhelm you with a credit card. So you always have to think frugally when using a credit card to keep from falling too far into debt. Now, debit, on the other hand, is money that you already have. So your debit card is one that's linked to your checking account, and like I said earlier, it's intended for daily purchases. if you run out of money and try to use your debit card, then it'll get declined, and you have to wait until your next income before you can make any further purchases. Some other types of exchanging money are they also use debit, such as a personal check. Personal checks can either be written from your debit or savings account, but they're written for money that you already have. Now, when a personal check is written, the money isn't actually withdrawn from the account until it's deposited to the bank. So if there isn't enough money in the original account when the check is deposited, then the check will bounce. Side story real quick. I worked in customer service and retail for a really long time, and I couldn't for the life of me understand why some of our customers would ask me to wait a few days to cash their check, or they'd say, hey, can you wait till Monday if they were paying just before the weekend. I was like, what does just a few days matter? You've already written the check. And then I learned that they were likely waiting for their next income, or they were moving money around and they didn't want their check to bounce. Now, the places I worked were like much smaller independent businesses, so I was able to wait before cashing their checks, but I don't know if you would be able to do that in like a larger, more corporate business. Now, similar in concept to personal checks are bank checks and money orders. The difference between them and personal checks are that when they're issued, the money is withdrawn from the account / it's already been paid. So there isn't like, you don't have the risk of it bouncing. A bank check is also called a cashier's check, and that one's going to be issued by the bank, and it doesn't cost any money to get written. A money order, however, will cost you a little bit of money and is done somewhere outside of a bank like Western Union, and I think the post office does them too. So you can use cash to get a money order. So it's really helpful for if you don't have a bank account and you still need to write somebody a large order of money and you don't want to just give them cash, and it's also guaranteed. So that wraps up today's discussion on banking. And next week, we are going to be talking about taxes and insurance. I know this is super fascinating and exciting stuff, but stay tuned because it is all very important and it does impact you. I think the biggest shock when I encountered taxes for the first time with my very first job, they took so much out of my paycheck and I was not expecting that. So we will talk a little bit more about that next week. So as always, if you guys have any questions or suggestions for videos you would like to see in upcoming Real World Basics videos, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at either through email or on social media, which I will include in the description box. But thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next week.